Namaste, welcome to Namaste Poon. In today's episode 3 of Ask Poon, we will be talking about one of the silently but growing concerns as well as questions that people might generally find helpful if they are in this situation, whereby what to do after losing your job, steps to take after silent retrenchment. Okay. So, as you all know, currently the market in the world, as a global world, is getting more isolated, getting more difficult. And of course, with the rising interest rate or even interest rate being stagnant and fixed at a high interest percentage, long gone are the 0% or negative interest rates. Um, People are concerned, about the high cost of living, inflation, and also that ultimately affects businesses and the economics of businesses as well. So won't be surprised to hear more news about retrenchments, loss of jobs. But what is very important, right, for yourself as a individual who, in the event, if you lose your job, what are the steps that you should do? So in today's episode of Aspun, that is what we are going to talk about. Losing a job is a very sensitive matter. Like, nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to, be in a situation whereby they have to worry about their finances, worry about their employability, worry about their skills, their contributions, and of course, take care of the liabilities in life, whether you have a kid, whether you have car, whether you have house, whether you have loans, whether you have mortgages. There's a whole list of things. So it's a very stressful affair, and it's a very sensitive matter as well. So let's talk about a few scenarios, correct? With the number one being retrenchment or silent retrenchment. Retrenchment is good in a sense that retrenchment is usually a public notice, which in and retrenchment, usually a better off MMC or company, they would offer you retrenchment or severance packages. In a more startup environment, they might not be able to offer you those oversized gardening leaves or packages, severance packages, but there may be something as well. And then you have the second category, which is called the silent retrenchment. So silent retrenchment is a more business urgent kind of scenario whereby businesses take on retrenchment, but without actually announcing that they are retrenching. Uh, and those are the ones that you usually get some gardening leaves, the basic retrenchment or notice period. And there may or may not be retrenchment benefits. Salary retrenchment, that's one. And then of course the last one is that if your performance is not up to par and company in some form or another basically terminates you, which is part of their employment contract, that is also possible, and they give you the bare minimum, which is notice. Of course, the last one is you getting fired lah. That one, no point talking, right? That one is like that one is really have to go and reflect on what you have done and what causes that event to happen. So we're gonna talk about the first three. So the first three is that in this context, the first three, first of all, if you are being retrenched or you lose your job for no fault of yours. So take note, lose your job for no fault of yours. What you can do is that most definitely when you are informed of this notice, ask your immediate superior or your officer or your HR if they are open to giving you a good recommendation and a recommendation letter. In a competitive job market, which usually happens when economies are going downhill, or economies are challenging, right? Not necessarily downhill, but it just can be challenging. A lot of people are applying for the same role. A lot of people are being more competitive or more hungry. Employers tend to, they tend to be more conservative with their hiring. So they might conduct reference checks. They might want to see your pay slips. They might want to, see good recommendation letter. So first thing first, immediately check with your immediate superior. Are they open to giving you a good recommendation? That's number one. Number two, are they willing to give you a recommendation letter? That's number two. Number three, what are the retrenchment benefits that you can have? That's something that is up for discussion, right? It really depends on how that company structure themselves and how they actually want to deal with this matter. If it's a startup company, this you think as an employer, as an employee, you generally don't think of the employer's point of view. But in these kind of cases, usually you have to think whether they have the runway or whether they have the liquidity to actually do that payout. Maybe some of them they are on the back to back, right? So they may not even have cash flow anymore. And in that kind of situation, you should be very happy. You should consider yourself lucky if you are getting your final salary, which is very unfortunate, but it's something that in the growing market you can see and even hear the winds blowing with some of those noises coming. So market generally is always very fluid, and it always tells you a lot of signals. So when you hear the winds start talking to you, starts blowing, and you start hearing some whispers, you know that, oh, okay, yeah, things are not doing so well. And of course, when you read on online forums, you can see some of those not so good news as well. So how do you go about this, right? First of like I mentioned, get your recommendation. So reference check, tick, right? Recommendation letter, tick. Right. Third thing, if there's any severance, garden leaves, packages, or support that the company can provide you, tick, right? And then go on to your second part. So if you have lost your job, right, what do you do? So what do you do next? So what you should do is that you can also start considering always to build resilience. So what I mean by building resilience? Building resilience doesn't mean, go on gig employment and start a freelancing business or this or that. It's a good idea, but when everyone, 90% of people can all offer freelancing, competitive as the whole world that is offering freelancing. And if you're in Singapore, where the cost of living is high, you're competing with essentially someone from India, someone from Indonesia, someone from Thailand, someone from Taiwan, someone from China, someone from Hong Kong, right? On this freelancing market. And you really ought to ask yourself, like, how much more competitive can you be? Doesn't mean that just because you are local means that you have the local context. There may be people who have been in transit in Singapore for 1 or 2 years, right, back in their home country, and they're competing with you on freelancing. So I don't think freelancing is something that is very lucrative, or something that can sustain if you are in a market whereby things become competitive. When things are in short supply, of course, it is lucrative. Even if you want to be a part-time Grab driver during the times whereby things are flourishing, the COVID times, or even before COVID times, whereby the startup growth ecosystem is growing like mad. Driving a Grab is a very lucrative gig, but if you look at it today, it may not be as great as last time in terms of incentives, and those are a fact. So what do you do? What do we mean by upskilling yourself? Upskilling yourself, building that resilience for yourself. What it truly means is be more educated, get more knowledge, get more wisdom, get more skills. In today's day and age, employers are not just looking for people who can perform that task, but actually people who can create tasks for people to perform. And performing that task and creating tasks for people to perform, these are two fundamentally different levels of skill set, correct? One is the left brain, one is the right brain. So how do you skill up yourself so that you can be competent to create tasks, to make not to get, but to make. And that's something that I think you have to look at today's day and age. AI, if you learn about AI and you can use AI to create things for your future employment or for your work and for your task, that is making something, correct? Creating. Um, versus using AI and just get the work done. Like that's anyone with a chat GPT can go and do it, correct? So the idea here is that how do you switch from just becoming a taker to becoming a maker? This is like market making finance stuff, but basically understand that being a taker, you are simply just processing it. But where the money is usually made is when you are making something. So look at how can you really enrich yourself, enrich your knowledge, your wisdoms, so that you can actually make things. That is very important. If you look at freelancing and gig employment, creating content, creating article is also making things, correct? Creating blogs, creating local content is all making things. The only thing with freelancing and all these things is that when you make things and everyone else is making things and you're competing with them globally, it might not be so workable. So when everyone in your local demographic is also doing it, then you're in a price war situation, and usually that doesn't end well. So you can use those making skill sets to actually be part of an organization and actually grow the organization. That would in the long run be more result and you more results. So that's something, right? Upskill yourself. Then you go into looking for employment. Looking for employment is a very delicate affair, correct? We've covered basically like in a more competitive market, employers may all be more conservative. So you may need to, they may conduct reference check, all these things which we talked about. But also in terms of your expectations and what you can bring to the table, those may also be elevated. So what you need is really to work out a strategy that may work for you. So how do I mean by that? Say you are a IT worker, right? Say you are in the tech field, and tech has always been very highly paid. But that being said, is that in a world of AI, tech is really being challenged, and you have to really see what is the PPU, right? Productivity per unit that you are inputting to the system. The sad truth is that the PPU for tech may not be as great as what the salary is. The only reason why the salary was elevated is because of demand and supply. Now, if that is something that you realize that, in your skill set, that is something that might be a challenge for you to land your next employment, then you have to place a value in that skill that you have. For example, data analysis. Data analysis, for example, is it really worth that much as a taker, or it can be worth that much as a maker? Now, if it can be worth as much as a maker and you can actually identify what that means, then you have a very good position to actually, be employed at the expected salary range and continue on with that competitive age, right? So we talk about age now. That age of why you should be paid that amount, because I can do this, and there's nothing else that can actually do this, that simply. Versus akin to a data analysis that an AI that is no different from an AI. So this is a taker, right? So in that, if you are a taker, then you have to evaluate how much does this workload or this taker task is worth. And if you look at it competitively across the whole specialization field, then you can more or less identify what's the value of that worth and what are the other skill sets that you can go and hone, so that when you combine all those together, hey, right, this is something that is worth So that is what I think what it truly means by building resilience is like know what you want, know what you have, and know what it takes to actually protect what you want. So it's a full circle Ouroboros, right? And this is something that I hope is a good takeaway for anyone that watches this video. And by doing all this, I think you may not just have the mindset that, okay, I'm here to do a thing and I'm just here to take, but to have the mindset that life can be also very fun. Life employment can also have a very bright future. And also you can be very, 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 very resilient by knowing how to make opportunities, how to make a career, how to make your skill set, how to leverage what you have, your wisdom, your knowledge, your specialization. Know and also not just know that you have those, right? And you can perform those tasks, but know how you can actually create task by becoming a maker rather than a taker. And the moment you have that concept in mind, I know it's a very strange concept, but just go and Google like what a maker and a taker is. Then you will understand that the market makers are there to make the market, and the takers are simply there to take whatever that the market maker has created. And honestly, the market makers don't have to pay a fee, but the takers will have to pay a fee. Why? Because they are on the receiving end. So be a maker and all the best. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.